Okay, I think we're ready. Um, and it's wonderful to be able to welcome you again to a session. And this time I get to introduce Keisuke Noda, as I did 2 years ago. He is a professor of theology at, uh,
Philosophy.
I'm sorry, my bad. Thank you for correcting me. Professor of philosophy at HJ International Graduate School for Peace and Public Leadership. I was trying so hard to get that right. Um, and that was formerly known as the Unification Theological Seminary. He was the philosophy editor and information science consultant for the New World Encyclopedia, and he's published 3 books in Japan, one of which is a 2-volume set, which is titled in English, History of Philosophy as a Narrative. And he's written a number of articles. And what I did not know about Keisuke is that he is an avid fisherman and is very aware of the ocean ministry, which is what he calls it. And so today he will be talking about Frankl's hermeneutic space and belief systems. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for introduction. So I will share the screen. Okay, thank you for joining this session. And my topic is Viktor Frankl's hermeneutic space and belief systems. And as an introduction, I want to begin with the question of self-transcendence. Frankl identifies the self-transcendence, the essence of being human and a key to make life meaningful, as we all know of. And individuals often seek self-transcendence, but pursuing the value of a belief system, and individuals also react to those who reject their belief system and or the religious authority of the group in various ways, ranging from indifference, acceptance, or outright hostility. So what does Frankl mean by self-transcendence? So I argue that Frankl's hermeneutic space is a meta-philosophical framework where diverse perspectives, religious beliefs, and scientific studies can co-present. And second, it seeks to transcend dogmatic belief, radical exclusivism, and the totalization of a perspective as well. And the third, it respects the religious faith of an individual and holds that the value of an individual is prior to and independent of the belief system. So these are 3 points I'm going to elaborate. And there are 5 key characteristics of Frankl's hermeneutic space. One is a phenomenological approach, which I will spell out a little more in detail. The second, the priority of the question of meaning in human existence, and what does it mean, and what it implies. Third, and a meaning-based concept of religion and God ultimate being. So I will show some quotes from Frankl. And fourth, the life of individual as a sphere, primary sphere for the meaning of life, how the meaning of life is disclosed. And Frankl take individual life as a primary sphere. And finally, value pluralist, multidimensional space. And these 5 are the 5 key characteristics I take as Frankl's hermeneutic space. And I spell out each one of them. First, phenomenological approach. So phenomenology is, as you know, not a doctrine, but a philosophical stance approach to the issues. And there are many phenomenologies, but all phenomenologies have in common two stances. First, faithfulness to the phenomena. Second, seeks to avoid dogmatic philosophical assumptions. And Husserl too rejected reductionism such as historicism or psychologism at his time. And Frankl's philosophy seeks to avoid the pitfalls of dogmatic philosophical assumptions and beliefs, which can be seen in his criticism of reductionism and his rejection of totalizing perspective and turning it into an ideology. And the second important insight is a priority of meaning. Just like Heidegger, Frankl recognizes the question of meaning as intrinsic to human existence and underlies all human activities and experiences. See, how do we see the scientific discoveries, religious beliefs, use of language, interpretation of rituals? The hub of all those human activity is meanings. Does it make sense? And question of why we approach the phenomena from the perspective of meaning is, in Frankl's view, it's built in the existence of human beings. In that sense, I think that the perspective is consistent with Heidegger. So Frankl conceptualizes this orientation toward meaning as the will to meaning and characterizes the priority of meaning as transcendental in reference to Kant, and I quote, in the strict sense of Immanuel Kant's transcendentalism, man's trust in meaning would deserve to be called transcendental. For Kant, transcendental means a condition to make knowledge or experience possible. So for Frankl, by transcendental, he means will to meaning as a condition to make human life possible. So for Frankl, the thesis that life has a meaning proceeds religious beliefs or inquiry, and scientific discoveries or use of language or interpretation rituals and symbols. And Frankl has a unique concept of religion and ultimate meaning based upon the meaning. Frankl defines religion as an, quote, religion as an expression of man's search for ultimate meaning or the fulfillment of what we now may call the will to ultimate meaning. So this is the quote, religion, we may say, revealed itself as the fulfillment of what we now may call the will to ultimate meaning. Incidentally, my definition of religion is a parallel by another one which was presented by Albert Einstein and reads as follows. To be religious is to have found an answer to the question, what is the meaning of life? And Frankl also cites to Ludwig Wittgenstein's definition, and quote, and there is still another definition which was offered by Ludwig Wittgenstein and reads as follows. To believe in God is to see that life has meaning. And in the 10th thesis of the latest version, Frankl revised a number of times, and I thank Charles. He gave me this citation. And the latest version of about 10 theses of the person, Frankl present this way. Thus, by understanding the phenomena of faith, not as a belief in God, but as a more comprehensive belief in meaning, it is quite legitimate that logotherapy deals with and occupies itself with the phenomena of faith in this, logotherapy holds with Albert Einstein, according to whom the question of the meaning of life means to be religious. And Frankl's broad concept of religion can accommodate, according to Frankl, various denominational approaches to God, as well as other religious and non-religious worldviews. In Frankl's word term, it is encompassing even agnosticism and atheism. And by God, Frankl means what the individual takes as a reference for the ultimate meaning, and he knows such concept encompasses traditional division of theism and atheism. And this is the quote: God is a partner of a most intimate solidarity. That is to say, whenever you are talking to yourself in utmost sincerity and ultimate solitude, he to whom you are addressing yourself may justifiably be called God. As you notice, such a definition circumvents the bifurcation between atheistic and theistic Weltanschauung. Weltanschauung is a worldview. And while Frankl recognized the value of religious belief system, he rejects denominationalism and exclusive superiority claim of a belief system. For example, but, quote, by comparing religion with language, one should also keep in mind that nobody is justified in claiming that the particular language spoken by himself is superior to another one. After all, it is possible in any language to arrive at truth, at the one truth, and it is also possible in any language to err and to lie. And however, we are not only confronted with linguistic pluralism, but also with religious pluralism, the latter being represented by the fact that, by and large, religion is split into various denominations, and again, one denomination cannot claim superiority over and against another. So another point is the perspective of the individual and the value of the individual. And Frankl's hermeneutic space is an open space for multiple belief systems grounded in the belief independent value and autonomy of individual. Frankl points out that there is no significant difference between those who believe in and a monotheistic God across different denominations. And in reference to doctoral dissertation by Meyer, Frankl points out there is no significant difference among different denominational beliefs for the purpose in life scores. And in Frankl's hermeneutic space, meaning is disclosed to each unique individual in his or her unique circumstances, and he highlights love and conscience as a primary capacity for self-transcendence. So, quote, love, I would say, is that capacity which enables him to grasp the other human being in his very uniqueness. Conscience is that capacity which empowers him to seize the meaning of a situation in its very uniqueness. And in the final analysis, meaning is something unique. So is each and every person. Ultimately, every person is irreplaceable, and if for no other person, he is so for him by whom he is loved. So, I would say by contrast, some of devotees of some belief system take an unfavorable stance toward the non-believers. Put differently, if the belief system is a primary source of value or meaning, then the belief system defines values such as love, good and evil, and justice. Then, those who reject that belief system may find themselves in opposition to believers who define those values based upon the acceptance of the belief system. In other words, if the belief system is a primary source of value and meaning, those who oppose that belief system appears as anti-values. That's why that is another, I think, reason why radical, believers can take a very hostile attitude and even inhumane attitude under the name of love, under the name of justice, do inhumane actions for those who are against either belief system or the authority of the group. So different denominations often share almost 90% of the same belief system. Only the difference is who the religious leaders is. So it indicates, I think, how to step into that question. And Frankl, as you know, distinguishes logotherapy from religion. And logotherapy does not cross the boundary between psychotherapy and religion, and it leads to individual. So it is a patient who has to decide whether he interprets responsibleness in terms of being responsible to humanity, society, conscience, or God. It's up to him to decide, but to whom and for what he is responsible. So furthermore, Frankl recognizes the positive aspect of religious faith for those who choose it. So an analogous byproduct is a religious inestimable contribution to mental health. After all, religion provides man with a spiritual anchor, with a feeling of security such as he can find nowhere else. So it is not rejecting it, but he fully recognizes the value of the positive value of religious faith. And talking about Frankl's hermeneutic space, one unique characteristic is it is multidimensional. And Frankl's hermeneutic space allows for multiple perspectives in which each belief system or discipline can disclose truth in its own unique way. Quote, there is no, this is Frankl's quote about Joan of Arc. And he recognized the multiple interpretation of Joan of Arc. From a Catholic point of view, she's a saint, but from a psychiatric point of view, she's a schizophrenic, and both are true. So there are multiple truth claims and he accepts this multiple truth claims, and at the same time, question is why and how your belief system is true. And a question raises a further question, what makes truth true? And Frankl is aware of, although he did not present the theory of truth, but he understands that judgment of truth is synthetic in activities of individual, looking at from various perspectives. Because human understanding is necessarily perspectival, so truth is disclosed partially according to that perspective. And that is, I think, firm, conviction. So each discipline or theory takes a certain perspective, and when one totalizes the perspective, it turns into an ideology. So today, Dr. Paul Wang brought in criticized the positive psychologies and arrogance. I think it's an example of turning a certain perspective into ideology. And also, Gideon presented the stages of multicultural growth and the religious, including religion, belief system tend to lock up human into the first stage and can't move to the next stage and give all kind of justification to stay on the first stage. And Frankl, I think, break it up. So Frankl's phenomenological approach led him to disclose and reject various dogmatic philosophical assumptions, such as reductionism. And at the moment at which totality is claimed, biology becomes biologism, psychology becomes psychologism, and sociology becomes sociologism. In other words, at the moment science is turned into ideology. And this applies to, I think, religious belief as well. So, and Frankl talks about how truth is manifested, and in reference to the shield of Harvard University, he points out the truth is divided into three syllables, and which are distributed over three books. And we may well interpret this by saying that total truth is not universal truth, for it is not accessible to everyone. And this is a quote, "Man has rather to be satisfied with getting hold of one single aspect of the whole truth. So much more is this true of God, of whom truth is in turn no more than merely an aspect." And Frankl identified the guiding principle of Adler's individual psychology, superiority, inferiority, the thing, as the will to power. And although Frankl did not extend this analysis of Adler to discussion of denominationalism, but this analysis can inform, I think, a critique of denominationalism. And Frankl recognizes that the concept of religion in its widest possible sense, as it is here exposed, certainly goes far beyond the narrow concept of God, promulgated by many representatives of denominational and institutional religion. They often depict, not to say denigrate, God as a being who is primarily concerned with being believed in by the greatest possible number of believers. And along the lines of a specific creed, that just believe, we are told, and everything will be okay. So denominations may also be a vehicle for amassing followers and exercising its power over others, including other denominations. And Frankl points out that they built up the image of God as someone who is primarily interested in being believed in, and who vigorously insists that those who believe in him be affiliated with a particular church. So Frankl notes, small wonder that such representative religion behave as though they saw the main task of their own denomination as that of overriding other denominations. So when this happens, devotees act out of group's quest for power without realizing it. So my point is, on the foreground, believers think that they are, doing the right thing for the sake of, divine truth. But at the background, they are driven by the will to power over the organizations. So create, I think, is a culture of hypocrisy, in a sense. So I conclude, the three key perspectives characterize Frankl's hermeneutic space. Number one is a phenomenological approach and the priority of a question of meaning in human existence. So Frankl consistently apply phenomenological approach, faithfulness to the phenomena, and avoiding pitfall of dogmatic assumptions. And he applied it across his analysis. And the priority of the question meaning in human existence, it makes making sense as a primary hub of human interpretations, be it scientific discovery, use of language, use of symbols, human behaviors, question, does it make sense? And it applies to religious belief as well. So why making sense is so primary? It is built on human existence, and the human has a pre-reflective understanding of the meaning of being. So consistent with Heidegger. And second, belief in independent values and autonomy of the individual as a loci of phenomena that discloses the meaning of life. So for that reason, sense such as love and conscience drive individual to pay attention to the individuals and uniqueness. And I argue that rather than making the belief system the primary source of values, but rather human life itself has a meaning and a values. From there, belief system comes to have a meaning. So this is I think a reverse, and I believe that Frankl made this tremendous twist of the perspective in approaching the question of meaning and the values. The third, multidimensionality, where multiple framework of interpretation and perspectives coexist. And so there are conflicting truth claims from psychiatric perspective, religious perspectives, and they are co-present. So self-transcendence is the essence of being human. And for those who seek self-transcendence in a belief system, the belief system is a source of value, meaning, and self-transcendence. Father Frankl recognized the value of religious beliefs. He also rejects the totalization of a perspective and challenges the idea that the belief system is a final destination and the ultimate source of value and meanings. So Frankl's hermeneutic space is an open dialogical space where multiple perspectives and the values are shared and are discussed toward authenticity. Frankl's self-transcendence implies the transcendence not only from the self, but from dogmatic ideological beliefs, superiority complex, and the desire for domination of others by the will to power. His hermeneutic space guides each individual in the pursuit of her ultimate meaning and the realization of her unique meaning of beings. So, reference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Keisuke. So I'm wondering if we have any questions. John, do you have your hand up, or are you're waving, right? Listen.
I have a question, but I don't want to get myself into trouble.
Well,
Dr.
just go ahead anyway, John.
All right, thanks, Charles. So Dr. Noda and I go back a ways. I have a question regarding phenomenology. Phenomenology rejects isms and preconceived notions.
Yeah.
And Husserl talks about bracketing our preconceived notions so that we can experience the things in themselves. It seems to me, and just listening to you, well, I mean, I know logotherapy, but it seems to me that in itself, the whole notion of meaning, as presented by Frankl in his writings, is anti-phenomenological, in that he speaks of an unconditional meaning to life. He speaks of can meaning. This seems to me to be a preconceived notion, or even a culturally wedded notion, which could be perceived or thought of as anti-phenomenological. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Certainly, in my understanding, Frankl is not Husserlian. He does not go to Husserlian phenomenology. Husserl is more essentialist, and within the consciousness, and he talks about the bracketing and finding the essence of the experience and so forth. That is very Husserlian, and Frankl doesn't go that way. And my interpretation of Frankl is more Heideggerian.
Yeah, there's transcendental phenomenology,
existence. And my reading of Frankl is Frankl is consistent with Heidegger's understanding of the priority of the meaning of existence. And from there, Frankl developed like a therapy space, and used the meaning as a kind of opened up a hermeneutic space within that. Hub is meaning, and within that the space, how therapy can work. So Frankl has a more, I think, practical approach to the issue itself.
So,
but my understanding is Frankl broadly understand the phenomenology, although he takes various concepts from Max Scheler. Yet what is consistent to all phenomenologies as I presented, faithfulness to the phenomena and avoidance of the dogmatic assumptions. And actually, I wrote a dissertation on the comparison of Husserl and Zen Buddhism, and titled "Disclosure of Presuppositions." So, disclosing the presuppositions and going back and see what what appears. So, in that sense, Frankl is, I think, phenomenological, but I think Frankl takes more practical, therapeutic approach. So that is a difference from Heidegger and Frankl.
So it boils down to transcendental phenomenology versus existential phenomenology.
Yeah, but I think it's not Husserlian. And right. I think Frankl is not Husserlian. Yeah.
John, let me also interject from my own viewpoint that, and please, both of you comment on it. I think you've pointed out a paradox of Frankl himself, in that he also said that we had to decide that there's no way to know in the intellect whether life has meaning or not, whether the universe is created mechanically, we're just people on a rock floating through space, or whether there is a teleological origin of our very existence. And he said there's no way to know. We have to answer in faith with the weight of our being. And so on the other hand, he says meaning exists in every circumstance. Meaning is available in every circumstance. And so in a way, you've pointed out a paradox that he opens up. And so I'd like to throw that out there.
So I take, the ultimate, God or ultimate being as a reference, and also more like Kantian regulative ideas. It guides our thought, but we cannot reach. So it guides our thought, thinking, and a discourse. So it's unknown. It guides us, but we do not reach. So ultimately, ultimate meaning is left as a question, and as it guides our thinking. That's how I interpret.
Any other questions
Or comment? Yeah.
or comments?
Yeah.
I would love to see, if possible, or get you to read the slide right before your conclusion, slide 1. There was a phrase at the bottom of that slide that was just extremely thought-provoking, and I couldn't get a screen cut in time to capture it, but I was fascinated by it. The slide immediately before conclusion, slide 1.
Oh, not this one.
Would that be multidimensional hermeneutics will to power slide 2?
This one?
Before that, two before that one.
Yeah, 2 before that one. Yeah.
I think that's the one he's talking about.
Yeah. That bottom paragraph, that bottom sentence is fascinating to me. Human beings become the means rather than the purpose.
Yeah.
This perspective built on power.
Yeah. It
was just very, very thought-provoking to me.
So I believe that it is more like Kant. Kant sees the human being as a purpose, and when we turn, when the power dominates, we tend to see human beings as a means only for the, and yet on the consciousness. And also in the religious organizations, they talk about the love and the passion and like a divine, and on the surface, on the consciousness, they think that everything is done for the sake of divine and values, but in reality, human being can be used as a means. So there's a gap between the what drives believers and what stay in their consciousness.
So would you say that's a kind of a shortcut? That they take a shortcut without going the long way there, to assume that their way is the only way, and that if only everyone did it that way, then everyone would gain what they've gotten, instead of understanding that as Frankl said, each person has a unique relationship with ultimate meaning and is responsible for finding it themselves.
Yeah, so human being, individuality is concealed, and an organizational goal, whatever that is, and come to the forefront. So, like, organization tend to hierarchy of powers, and the values are on top, and individuals become just a means, not the very purpose. So somehow I think reversal is going on, and a belief system tend to lock them up, and it's like a matrix. Once you get into, you can't really find the exit. It's very difficult to move out. It's a maze. I think it has a maze structure, and I can't find it. And I even do not see, even the human beings becomes a means, but yet it's hard to see it and realize it. So that is that is, I think, paradox and irony. And they are doing the right thing, and for the sake of God, and in reality they don't. And especially if the religious authorities are different, you can't be a friend anymore. You take a very hostile stance. Even if they share 90% of the same belief, and both talk about the love and compassion, but compassion ends when the belief system is different, or the authority is different. So to break it, I think we, as Frankl pointed out, the turning perspective into the ideology is going on, and the domination of the will to power slides into the organizations. So that is a kind of thing, I think, going on. And I put my slides, and also I wrote an article on the resource section. So there are more quotes and argument. So please feel free to download and slides and essays.
Yeah. I think we have time. We're running out of time, but I think we have time for a couple more quick questions. So Janetta, you had your hand raised, and we have one more in the chat.
Yeah, I think not only irony, Dr. Noda, but also idolatry, right? To use a religious term in which you have an ersatz version of purpose that displaces the appropriate purpose. The other thing that comes to mind would be Frankl's work in Doctor and the Soul, which seems applicable to hermeneutics in a group environment, in which he worries about a specific collective neurosis of fanaticism. It talks about fanaticism not only as an issue of power, but an issue of fearing contamination by the other. And I think that dynamic is very much part of what you're describing, in which a group's idolatrous over-identification with a belief system becomes resistant to any hermeneutic inquiry, any dialogical inquiry, for fear of contamination by the other, which it starts to, as you say, reinforce itself in certain ways. And Frankl comments in that text that such kinds of collective neuroses are the harbingers of war. And I think, one of the reasons these philosophical pieces are so important, and I thank you for your work today, is because we live in a time of war. And these kinds of fanatical, idolatrous group activities are just a terrible risk and an origin story for the violence we see. So thank you for your work today. Lovely presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your insightful comment. Thank you. And the reason I use the term belief system is certainly belief system consists of teaching and organization and a community of believers and the language spoken of in the group, and so rituals and symbols, and all those constitute the belief system. So it relates to the stage of multicultural growth that Gideon talked about. And so yeah, thank you for comment. Yeah.
Okay, one more question from Egli Gimon. Could you comment a bit more on how to best explore meaning when someone is agnostic? I think that's a kind of the other side of the coin to explore. It may well be sufficient for an entire seminar in itself, but do you have some commentary on how to best explore meaning with someone who is agnostic?
Well, certain level, I think, philosophers have retained certain kind of agnostic, healthy skepticism. That's why they do not go into the theology. So I think, having multiple ways to approach to truth and examine the criteria of truth and what makes truth true, though all those things are built into, I think, Frankl's hermeneutic space. And he is open, absolutely open to those questions, and does not hesitate to examine why and how truth is considered as true. And I think in that sense, Frankl's hermeneutic space is a right place for the agnostics and healthy, skeptics come on to and realize the value of the meaning and have an open dialogue with others, and also appreciate the religious values as well as a humanist. So I think having a skepticism is healthy, and retains a certain skepticism is, I think, more in a healthier mind. It's dangerous, I think, to lose that kind of check and balance. Just as if organization lost check and balance mechanism, and power become very dangerous. And similarly, check and balance is healthy, I think, part of being human. Yeah.
So would you say the healthy skepticism helps to keep us from falling into denominationalism? Is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, with that, thank you so much for your presentation. This has been wonderful. Very much appreciate your thoughts and your organization of Frankl's work in such a manner that we could see it in a new way. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining. Thank you.